My name is Frank Thomas, and today we're going to be looking at some of the new Windows automation commands within Ubot Studio. Ubot Studio is entered into the realm of Windows automation. So what is Windows automation? You can perform simple tasks of automation, and also with a bit of imagination you can do some pretty cool stuff. So basically what's happening is, instead of just manipulating web windows and such, you can actually manipulate and work with other windows within Windows, which is pretty nifty. Remember though that Ubot Studio was primarily designed as a web automation tool. This functionality is actually pretty new. It's actually, this program is probably the simplest and best on the market right now when it comes to web automation. I use quite a few different ones, and I do find that I use Ubot more often than not. For Windows automation, there's other tools as well, and they'll branch into the realm of browser automation or web automation, and they're okay, but Ubot really does take the cake. And with the Windows automation that's starting to come in, it's pretty exciting stuff. Ubot users have really been trying to find ways to work with the file system and then other external file systems for some time now. The migration to Windows automation really was a natural progression for Ubot Studio. The big reason for this is because of the users. The users want more and more and more. And one of the things is being able to manipulate other running programs. And this really is the next step in the evolution of the software. Some things will still require a bit of imagination and searching within the forums. I'm going to show you some really neat ways to go into the forums and search through them and dig out information that's really good to use. I do this all the time. You know, I do teach Ubot Studio, but you know, I can't remember everything, and I'm constantly talking to other members within the forums directly through Skype, and also using, you know, search engines, specifically Google, to search and use the site qualifier to find details on how to do something that I'm trying to do. So I'll be demonstrating what the commands we have now can do and how to do some pretty cool stuff and manipulation using Windows automation. So get ready and we'll get started. And by the way, these tutorials are for anybody who's using the standard, pro, or the developer version. So you're not left out in the cold. These commands have been entered into all three versions of Ubot Studio. So once again, let's get started. Within Ubot Studio, there is two places where you're going to find Windows automation commands. The first one is inside the commands folder, and the second is the parameters folder. The Windows commands here are the click dialog button, click mouse, click window, or close window, keyboard event, move mouse, set active window, set dialog text, and type keys. Now you're going to find a lot of these commands might seem redundant in certain situations, but each one of them really does have its strength and a place to be used. Underneath the parameters, there's a single command which is scrape text, and I'll show you what that is all about as well. Okay, to get started, you might think that Windows automation is a completely separate topic to web automation, and you might be asking yourself, why would Ubot even be concerned about Windows automation when it does web automation so well? There's times and situations when you actually need to have some form of Windows automation to work with web automation. Let me just show you a really quick example to start off with. I'm going to search for Flash Upload Example. Now, these sites here are going to demonstrate sites that are actually going to open up a window that requires you to put some input. So I'm just going to choose one of them on the list here. And you'll see here there's a place where I can actually upload. Now you're going to notice something unusual that happens as well. Especially with Flash. You're going to find when you click Browse to open up a window, it's going to open up in behind your primary Ubot window, which makes it practically impossible just to use a mouse move or something like that to get over to that screen and interact with it. Well, there's an easy way to interact with it. First off, let's say my bot would click the browse, and then let's say after it clicks the browse, I just want to close this window. I don't really want it to be up. So what I would want to do is I would want to use the command to start with, click dialog button, because inside this box here you're going to see there's a cancel button, and I just want to hit the cancel button and be done with it. Okay, I'll bring this window in here so you can see the full screen of it. So I would want to be able to hit the cancel button and it would just close. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here is we actually have to find the caption. Now the caption is this here. Now you notice I can't select it. There's no way for me to select it. We can actually type that in here, just reading it from the previous caption here. I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit. And type that in here. rizal.com, and the button I'm going to hit has the text of cancel. So if I say OK, and let's say I run that, let's see what happens. Okay, so the box closes, and that's what we want to see. Now, I'm kind of lazy. I like to do things as easy as possible. So typing this in manual for me just does nothing for me. Let me show you a place where I found a really great utility, and it's actually 100% free. It's on a site called narsoft.net. I've actually used some of his other utilities, and they work pretty good. Sometimes they'll activate antivirus programs, but I have found his programs to be completely clean. Now the program we're looking at today is called SysExporter. Okay, and I've actually downloaded it and installed it on my machine, and this is what SysExplorer does. What we can do is I'm going to just clear this list here, or I'm just going to refresh the list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that window again here. I'm going to browse. Okay, so that window is now open here. What I can do with that program is I can click the target here, hold it, grab it, and release it. And you can see here that it's showing us multiple things because there's multiple elements. There's a text box, there's a combo box, there's a list view. But I'm just going to right click and I'm going to hit properties. What I can do here, the title is actually displayed. What I can do is I can select this, I can copy this, and let's say I haven't typed this in yet, I can literally just paste this right in here. And it allows me to get whatever the title is for the window right away. Okay, I'll have the link for this program here in the show notes for you, so you can actually go grab it. Like I said, it's an absolutely free program. Great, works good. And like I said, we can use the dialog box to hit the cancel. So I'm going to hit OK for now. I'm just going to run it to make sure it runs. And in the background, the dialog box did disappear. Well, the next thing we're going to probably want to do is we're going to probably want it to select some sort of file. So I just did a quick look here, and this site here is actually going to be uploading an image file. So I've created an image file, but let's set something up here so we can actually select the image file. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to choose it. So it's just a nonsense file. It's called open.png. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have this, we want this to click the browse button. Okay, so this is fully flashed. I'm not going to really demonstrate flash too much right now, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. We're just going to use the actual variable that we have there to fill in things. Okay, so the file that I want to fill in is actually the name here, like the file name, and then I'm going to want to click save. So let's close that for now, and I am going to now use the command called set dialog text. Okay, and again, we need that caption, so I could use that program, or what I could do is I could go over here, I could edit, I could just copy this, and I could just paste this across. Okay, I'm going to just change this to, I believe it was okay. The label, we have to look at that window quickly here. Sorry, it must be open in the background here. Give me 1 second. So yeah, that window just got stuck behind the main Ubot window here. And what I want to do is I want to get this name here, because this is the label and this is the label. We have to do the label verbatim. So I'm just going to minimize and squeeze this over a little bit. And I'm going to call the label will be file name : okay. And what we want to put in there is we're just going to put our image file name, because we have that already. We're going to say okay. So let's just run this by itself. Okay, you can see here it's actually filled that in. Okay, the other button is not okay, it's save. So I'm going to edit this one here. I'm going to say okay. And run node. Okay, so it, like I said, it's just a nonsense file. But you can see it actually found the actual file. How I created this file was just a real nonsense file. It was just, I just created a .txt and changed the name of it. But it allowed me to actually try to upload it. Let me just see what the actual requirements are. Oh, it does do PNGs, but it's not a true PNG that I'm trying to upload. Like I said, it's just a nonsense file. So you can see that we can use these two commands. So that's a set dialog text, and using this sys exporter will allow us to very quickly get in there and get the name by right-clicking and doing properties, and we can get the name of the actual title for the box. Now you don't have to use this utility, it's up to you. You can type that in manually on the top, but that's how you use these two commands. Now the nice thing about these commands is that if the box happens to go behind, let's say we click browse, you see the box isn't behind, I really can't see it. So right here, I'll show you. See how the box is in behind? What I can do is I can right click, I'll run that node. You see how it's filled it in for us? And I right click on this and I run that node. It can actually run the box even though the box is hidden or out of sight. So it's not a big problem, even if you open up something in Flash and it goes behind your main window. Now you're going to see some of these commands do direct interaction with the mouse, which means they are they must be primary window. They must be right in front, and you must be able to interact with them just like you would interact with them manually. Now some of these commands require you to, like I just mentioned, use them in the primary, use them as a focus. So for that, we will actually want to bring that window right to the forefront. So I'm just going to remove all these commands that I have here. And in the background here, I've just got Notepad running. Okay? So here it is right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this just a little bit here. Let's go back to Google Main here. It doesn't matter where we're at. Okay, so we're back on Notepad here. Now what we can do is we can use the command set active window. Okay? So that window can be over top, can be underneath, can be whatever. And what we're going to do, this one here actually has a little bit of automation to it. We click Control, see how the name is coming up, and as we hover over the notepad, we release our mouse. Okay? We say OK. If we want to redo that, we just click Wizard, hit Control. See that? Okay, there we go. I'm going to say OK. So even though, let's say Notepad is in the background, I'm going to say OK. If I hit Run, it's going to bring it focused right to the front. And now we can actually manipulate the window directly. Okay? Sometimes the program will not be accessible through automation, even through very fancy automation. And I found this with all automation programs, because the programmer who wrote the program made all the controls obscure to automation. Now they don't do it out of malice, it's just the way they've written the program, or possibly the way the compiler actually compiles the program, and you actually have to bring the window into focus and point to it, or point into it, or do something like that. And I'll show you that right now. So once we have that window in the forefront and active that we can see it, we're going to want to, let's say, type something in this window here. Okay. For that command, we're going to use the type keys command. Okay. Once again, we hit Control, and we're going to just highlight this to make sure it is highlighted. I'm going to minimize this window just a little bit. Oh, let me just cancel this for a second. Sorry, it's a limitation when I'm recording here. So I'm going to click the wizard. I would have to hit Control for the key that I want to select. Okay, I'm going to hit Control. And I'm going to actually click about where I want the actual text to be typed. Okay? I'm going to release. Now you're going to see it's done a few things here. It's captured the parent name. This is the parent name. The class, it's Notepad. And the X and Y position. This is based upon the X and Y position with this spot right here being 0, 0, moving in to increasing on the X and increasing on the Y axis. We say OK. Okay, then I'm just going to type some text in here. I'm going to say OK. Okay, so let's hide this window a little bit and click Run. Okay, so the window is set active and it starts typing exactly where we've pointed to. Okay, now let's say we decided to do this again. I'm just going to right click on this and edit it so I can run the wizard again. Okay, and here's our window. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move outside right about here. So I'm still in the window. I'm going to release. So it's captured a setting really far out. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say this is the second test. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to wipe this text in here. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to scrunch this window up a little bit. So we've fallen outside of the range. Let's see what happens this time. Okay, the PC is actually chimed. In other words, there's a problem. And you notice there's no text in here. Now if I expand this window out, okay, it now works. So when you're using the type keys command, you got to be really, really careful that you actually put your cursor where it's supposed to be. Now the nice thing is it's not really dependent on dots per inch and all kinds of weird stuff. If you selected the right place, then you're usually okay. Okay, so and this is a really handy command to use when you need to select something. Okay, so that's the type keys. Now we can use this in multiple places. We can use it to enter fields here, or let's say this was a box with different fields. We can have it click or enter it in a certain place, etc., etc., etc. So this is kind of a way to get text where we want it to exactly on the page. So I can show you here. Let's just edit this again. I'm going to run the wizard. Okay, so I'm holding down the control key and I'm going to select right here. And say OK. Okay, and now I'm going to run it again. Now you see it took the cursor and put it right where I selected, and I was able to insert like I was just like I had done it manually. And it put the insert here. So it was, this is a second test, and it put the insert here. So you see it's very dependent on location. Now let's say we wanted to interact with this window a little bit more. Now remember, and this is really important for you to remember, the commands that we've started here require the program to have full access. If you're trying to do something off over here with your mouse on that, and you're running these commands, you're going to run into conflicts. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's say we use the move mouse command here. Okay, I'm going to pull this open. I'm going to hit Control, and let's say I'm going to have it click right here. I'm going to release. I'm going to say OK. Now let's say. Now watch my mouse. You see my mouse is right over the command. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to edit mode, and bam. You see my mouse is now over here. So what's happened is The program has taken primary control of my mouse and moved it where it needs to be. Now, sometimes when you're automating windows, you got to do this. And this also works well within the window here too. Okay, so, but you have to realize that it will be taking command of your mouse and moving it where it needs to be. So if you're over here trying to do something in Word while this automation program's running, it's going to take control of your mouse and do whatever action you've told it to. Now, what I can do once I've moved my mouse, I'm just going to run the wizard here. I'm going to edit wizard. Okay, I'll just bring this into context, the window here. I want it to click file, so I'm just going to hover over the file, release the control key. I'm going to say OK. Now the next thing I want to do, I want to click that. So I just want to click that. So what I can now use is called mouse event. Okay? And what I can do is I can left click, right click, double click, left mouse down, left mouse up, right mouse down, and right mouse up. Now, as if you might be able to guess, a left click is a left mouse down and a left mouse up. So it's two actions. So that's what I want. So let's just run those two. And I'm just going to get this in the way here. I'm going to run this and see what happens. Okay, you see how it's moved my mouse over here, and it's actually clicked the mouse. Okay, now let's say I want to click open. Now what I will have to do is now do another mouse move and click on open. Okay, excuse me. So I'm going to do a mouse move. Hit control. I'm going to click open. Okay, I don't need to hit open. I just have to say it. Click it. Okay. Now let's run this. Now I have to do that, and I have to do another mouse event. And I'm going to do another left click. So let's just run this and see what happens. Okay, the program was fast enough to catch that. Sometimes though, you're going to have to, and this is something that I've caught. Sometimes you have to do a wait. Okay, so you're just going to want to wait a second. So let's run that again. Okay, so it clicked open. And I'm going to hit cancel. Now, this is a two-step procedure, and this is of the two I'm going to show you, the most powerful way to do things. Let's get rid of the second mouse move and mouse event. There's another way we can do this. We can actually do a click mouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this into here. Okay, here's the object capture again. And I'm just going to get this, oh goodness, just going to get this out of the way a bit. Okay, so here's object capture. I'm going to hit control. And when it's over open, I'm going to release. I'm going to say OK. So it's going to fill in all the details. I can do a left click, a right click, and a double click. So you see, this is the click mouse command is actually a combination of the mouse move and the mouse event. Now, why have two different commands? Sometimes you're going to get into situations where you just need to click the mouse somewhere, and the click mouse command will it's a very fast command, lets you get it done real quick, and life is good. So let's just run this. Okay, and you see it operates exactly the same way. Sometimes though, you need the more powerful and beefy ability to move the mouse, and maybe sometimes something in a program will come up. Sometimes you move the mouse to that area when it's in focus, and it'll just come up naturally. And when it comes up, then what you're going to do is then wait for that to come up, and then use the second command, it's like the mouse event, to actually do a left click. Or sometimes for the mouse event, you actually have to do a click down and do something else, or click up and do something else. So that's why there's two separate commands that seem to overlap each other. One is the click mouse is a very quick and dirty way to get things done quick. And the move mouse event is a little more meaty and lets you do a little bit more, things with the mouse. So those are those two commands. And you'll find, depending on what you're doing and how you're using these commands, is how you will use them in the future. Now, there's more ways to interact with Windows than just moving the mouse to a particular area. You'll notice a few things here. Well, let's look at Notepad in particular. If you click on File, you see that there's shortcut keys like Control N, Control O, Control S, Control P. Let's say I wanted to do an open. Instead of having to wait, click on File, click on Open. A little bit more robust way to do this is actually find a way to simulate keyboard strokes. So when this window's open, if I hit Control O, you see it shows me if I want to save this because I'm going to open up another file. Okay, so we can use Windows Automation doing the same thing. So let's just get rid of some of these other commands here. Actually, let's just open up a new tab. I'm going to copy this, paste. Now, this is what the command keyboard event is for. Once we have focus on this window here, and focus means it's the active window, I can actually perform keyboard events. So I want to hit the Control key, and there's three different types of events that I can choose from. A key press, a key down, and a key up. Now, if you are emulating what's happening on the keyboard, a key press would be you press the key down and you lift it back up. But when we're doing a Control O, we're pressing the Control key down, holding it, we press the O key and release, and then we release the Control key. So we're going to emulate that exact functionality in Ubot. So I'm going to do a key down, okay, another keyboard event. I'm going to press the O key, and it's going to be a key press, which is a down and up. And finally, I'm going to do another keyboard event, which is to hit the Control key, and it's going to be a key up. Okay, let's just run that and see what happens. Excellent. So we're actually building a much more robust robot. If we can actually use these keystrokes instead of actually trying to use our mouse to jump in there and do these things, much better. But again, these commands require absolute control of the machine. If it takes control of this window and then I click over here and take control of another window, then it's going to mess things up. And let me just show you that action in particular here. What I'm going to do is I am going to have it set the active window. I'm going to put in a pause right before the keyboard event. Okay, so what's going to happen is focus is going to jump over to here. This is going to highlight, and immediately it's going to jump back to here, or I'm going to have to jump back to it and click the run button here. So let's just run that and see what happens. Okay, so focus is still here, but for me to click the run button, guess where focus goes to? Back to Ubot. And you see Ubot responded from the keyboard stroke, because you see it says, do you want to save changes to the untitled bot? Because this has the Control 0, or not the 0, Control O shortcut key as well. So we have to make sure that we do not interact with the PC whatsoever, because the automation commands need to have full control. Now, what happens if this window's not there? Guess what? It doesn't work. These commands will just not work, okay? Or they'll work in a way that you're not expecting. So you got to make sure things do work properly. Now, the command that's sitting underneath of parameters, which is the scrape text command, it kind of works, okay? Now, the reason why it kind of works is not a failing from Ubot. It's simply because of the fact that not all Windows programs will divulge the information that they show. Notepad, unfortunately, is one that we can actually scrape text from, and this is how we would do it. What we're going to do is we're going to do a set command, and I'm just going to create a variable, and I'm going to drag the scrape text into that new value here. Once again, we got the object class. Right, hit the Control key, and I'm going to select an area of where I want to scrape text. So I'm going to click right here inside the box. I'm going to say OK. It's going to fill in all the details for me. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate an alert that shows us the variable. So let's just run this and see what happens. Oh, sorry, first I have to make sure I have the focus on the window. Oops. Keep wanting to click, so you have to watch that. Okay, so let's run this, see what happens. So you see here, it actually grabbed this text which was around the insertion point here. Now let's say I didn't do this exactly right. Let me edit this. I'm going to run the wizard again. Here's the box. I'm going to hit Control. I'm going to click up top here in the window here. Say OK. And what I want to do is I want to make sure the variables are cleared. So I'm going to hit Debugger. And I'm going to clear the variables. Okay. Okay, so the text we got this time was from on top here. That's the text that could be read. But I will warn you, not all programs are as flexible and as easy to use as Notepad. This is going to be a hit and miss sort of thing. This command works really good, but it really depends on the program you're trying to scrape text from and where you click in it, etc., etc., etc. But that's how you use this particular command. Okay, another command inside of the commands, Windows commands, is the click dialog button. I'm going to click this open, and I'm going to want to click the don't save. So I'm going to bring over here actually I want to run this, I think I want to run this script here so we get that box open for us automatically. Oh, we got to get rid of this pause. My apologies. Okay, so let's run it now. Okay, so let's say we want to click the don't save. Okay, so what we would do here is click the dialog button. I'm going to put a small weight into here. Once again, I did explain talking about the weight. Throw a weight of 1 second or 2 seconds in to allow the window to come up. Okay, you see here when I click the dialog button, I have to use my nifty program here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the bullseye and drag it over here. Okay, so there we go. Now this could actually bring us into an interesting situation here. So let's just right click properties. So that's the title. Now we see here the title for these two windows is actually pretty much the same. So let's see what happens here. We'll do the caption. The button text is don't save. Or actually, I'll do cancel. I'm going to select OK. Now let's see what happens here. Okay, so it didn't find it. So using that tool is not perfect. So let's just go in here and edit this. And I also saw that the name was just Notepad. So we'll say that. Let's just do that and see what happens. That time it worked. So that's how we use that. Okay, the final command that we have to worry about is the close window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this command here. I'm going to open up a new window again. I'm going to paste it over to here. And I'm going to do the close window. And I'm going to say OK. And actually we don't need the set active window. We can actually just run it without. So let's just do that. Okay, this is a case where we got to watch out for things. We might want to come up, have the robot look to see if this box comes up. So it's trying to close the box, but since it didn't save anything, I'm going to say don't save, and you see here at this point in time it actually closes the box. So we could actually add in the automation to look for that window if it comes up, and then close the box if it sees it. And really it's just as simple as actually putting the automation in place. So it is as if that box showed up, and if it doesn't, it's not really a big deal. And that's how you use the Windows commands. The parameter command, which is the scrape text, which allows us to scrape text into a particular variable. as well as the other commands that let you actually interoperate with the different Windows boxes, so you can actually automate them. You can also use a lot of these commands within the browser, but in some cases the actual commands that are in Ubot work much better for that. So just to give you a heads up, there you go. That's how you use a lot of the Windows automation commands.